Kirito is a pathetic lonely loser like you, who just plays with his joystick all day. Until one day, he finds himself in a game, and can't leave until he completes every level. So he decides to do it. I mean, not completing the game, but rizzing every hottie he can.
What is this thing? Squishy.
Then unlock cheat skill, and becoming the strongest beater.
What do you mean by that?
This all begins as beta test is finally ended, and the world's first full-dive VR MMORPG, Sword Art Online, was minutes away from officially opening. Kazuto Kirigaya, who had tested the game before, set his nerve gear on his head and prepared himself like it was a big moment. Exactly at 1 p.m., Sunday, the 6th of November 2022, his screen faded out, and he appeared inside the giant starting city called the Town of Beginnings. In this world, he used the name Kirito. As Kirito explored the streets like a pro, one guy noticed how confident he looked and immediately begged for help. He introduced himself as Klein, loud, goofy, and completely clueless. Instead of learning, Klein spent most of the day messing around and acting dramatic while a boar kept shaking its butt at him like it was mocking him. Kirito couldn't watch anymore, so he picked up a small stone and decided to teach Klein how the combat system actually worked. He explained how the game's cardinal system helped activate sword skills, making attacks land perfectly if timed right. Klein felt the power kick in, charged at the boar like a hero, and defeated it in one strike. After that, the two spent the entire afternoon practicing skills, battling monsters, and fooling around until the sun dropped behind the horizon. Everything felt fun until Klein opened his menu and froze. The logout button was gone. Before they could understand anything, a deep bell echoed across the world. Every single player was automatically teleported back to the Town of Beginnings. The sky turned a frightening red, and warning symbols filled the air. A huge pool of glowing red mist formed above the plaza and shaped itself into a massive figure. The man introduced himself as Akihiko Kayaba, the creator of SAO. He explained that the missing logout button wasn't a bug, it was intentional. Then he showed real-world news, proving that 213 players had already died when someone tried to remove their nerve gear. The headset fried their brains instantly. Kayaba told everyone the rules. If you die in the game, you also die in real life. And the only way out was to fight through all 100 floors of Aincrad and defeat the final boss. Suddenly, a mirror appeared inside everyone's inventory. When players looked into it, a huge wave of energy filled the area, and all avatars changed, returning to the players' real-life appearances. Klein was shocked, but Kirito remembered that the nerve gear scanned their bodies during setup, which explained the transformation. Kayaba finished his speech, saying he had finally created the world he dreamed of, and then vanished from the sky, leaving thousands of players in fear. As panic broke out, Kirito realized this wasn't just a game anymore. If he wanted to stay alive, he had to get moving. The moment the force field around the plaza disappeared, he sprinted away. He begged Klein to come with him to a safer town, but Klein refused because he couldn't leave his friends behind. The two split paths. Kirito ran alone, and when he looked back for a moment, he understood something painful. He was completely on his own in this world, but he kept going, remembering his past life, his struggles, and the reasons he needed to survive. His goal became clear: become strong enough to beat the game and live. A month passed. 2 out of the 10,000 players had died so far. The first floor still wasn't cleared. The top players decided to call a meeting to discuss strategies against the first boss. A guy named Diablo introduced himself loudly, bragged that his team discovered the boss room, and told everyone to form parties of 6. Kirito looked around and realized he had no friends to team up with. Then he spotted a girl sitting alone, a little away from everyone. He walked up to her and quietly asked if she wanted to join his party. She nodded. Her name flashed: Asuna. Right after parties formed, a hot-headed guy named Kibao started yelling that beta testers were to blame for new player deaths. He claimed they took all the good quests and leveling spots. He demanded they hand over their items and gold. Before the situation exploded, a calm, strong-looking guy named Agile stepped forward with a guidebook. He explained that beta testers made these guides to help everyone, not to cheat them. Agile told everyone to stop arguing and focus on defeating the boss instead. The meeting ended. Asuna quietly walked away, and Diablo watched her suspiciously. That night, while the rest of the players celebrated, Asuna sat alone eating a plain bread bun like she didn't care about anything else. Kirito sat down beside her and joked that her food looked depressing. Then, he took out a special flavor item that made bread taste way better and told her to try it. She hesitated but finally tried it and instantly liked the taste. Even if she tried to hide it, she explained she wasn't here for fun food anyway. She wanted to remember who she was and not lose herself, even if she died in this game. The next morning, on the way to the boss room, Kirito explained how switching worked in battle. When Asuna admitted she didn't know what it meant, Kirito realized things might be way harder than he expected. When they reached the giant doors, they opened slowly, revealing the first floor boss, Ilfang the Cobalt Lord. The battle started immediately, and Ilfeng almost wiped out the entire front line with his opening attack. While fighting a minion, Kirito blocked its strike and shouted, "Switch!" Asuna dashed forward, struck with insane speed, and defeated the monster. Kirito was impressed by how quick she moved. Ilfeng was down to his final health bar. The guide said he would switch to a certain weapon in this phase, but Diablo rushed in too early. The boss suddenly pulled out a weapon that wasn't in the beta test. Kirito yelled for Diablo to run, but Ilfeng launched into the air and smashed him into a stone pillar. Kirito tried giving him a potion, but Diablo stopped him and accepted his fate as he faded into pixels. Kirito stood up again, and Asuna returned to his side. Together, they charged at Ilfeng. She blocked his attacks, dodged swings, and knocked him backward. Kirito found his sword sheath under her cloak, and when she told him to attack together, they rushed forward. Kirito deflected Ilfeng's strikes, leaving his weak point open. Asuna sliced across the boss's abs. Kirito followed with more hits. She then struck deep into his stomach, pushing Ilfeng into a desperate final mode. Ilfeng vanished for a moment and delivered a massive slash that sent Kirito flying. He pushed himself up and told Asuna to prepare one last switch. Asuna used her linear thrust skill, and Kirito used a powerful strike to push the boss's blade away. As the attack almost hit Asuna, she unleashed her shooting star move, and Kirito finished the final blow. The first floor boss was defeated. The moment the boss collapsed and the system announced Kirito for landing the final hit, the whole raid team burst into cheers. Players surrounded him like he was some kind of hero. But before the celebration could even settle, Kibao suddenly shouted at everyone to shut up. He pointed straight at Kirito and yelled, demanding to know why he didn't save Diablo. Since Kirito knew the boss's attack pattern, Kibo blamed him for letting Diablo fall. A few others began whispering that only a beta tester would know that much about Ilfeng's moves. Hearing their words, Kirito felt the guilt sink in. A part of him believed they were right, it was his responsibility. But then he remembered what Diablo had told him before dying, "Save everyone else, for me." Those words reminded him of the weight he now carried. Instead of panicking, Kirito did something unexpected. He laughed. He told the whole group that he wasn't like the weak beta testers they hated. He said he wasn't useless like them and had actually climbed much higher floors during the beta test. He explained he knew about the boss's skills because he fought monsters way stronger than anything they faced. Kibao's face twisted. To him, Kirito wasn't just a beta tester, he was even worse. He screamed that Kirito was a cheater. The crowd joined in, mixing the words beta tester and cheater until a new insult was formed, beater. But instead of being offended, Kirito smirked and said he liked the name. If calling him a beater kept people from hating other beta testers, then fine, he would carry that title alone. As the raid group finally broke apart, Asuna walked over, asking how he knew her name during the fight. Kirito apologized in case he said it wrong, and pointed out that players' names appear above their HP bars during combat. She checked and saw Kirito floating above his health. She smiled quietly, realizing his name had been visible the whole time. Before she left, Kirito told her that teaming up was safer than fighting alone. When she asked what he planned to do, he didn't answer. He simply walked away and ended their party right when the gate to floor 2 opened. On April 8, 2023, a small group of panicking adventurers praised Kirito for saving their lives in a dungeon. Their leader, Keita, asked Kirito about his level. Kirito lied and said, level 20, hiding how strong he really was. Keita explained that their guild didn't have anyone strong enough to protect the front line except Sachi, their weakest member, and asked Kirito to join them. Kirito didn't want to commit, but seeing how helpless they were, he agreed. And that's how he ended up joining the Moonlit Black Cats. The next day, the guild faced a huge mantis in Sunshine Forest. The monster almost struck Sachi, but Kirito dashed in and cut off its arm right before it hit her. Tetsuo followed up and finished the mantis in one clean attack. After the fight, Keita told everyone that the top guilds already cleared up to the 28th floor. He dreamed that one day, their guild would be strong enough to stand beside them. Kirito admired Keita's hope, but he also realized he wasn't any different from the elitists, because he was hiding his real level from them. Later that night, Kirito was passing through the wolf plains and ran into Klein and his party fighting wolves. Klein defeated a wolf and then spotted Kirito watching from a hill. He rushed over, laughing and asking if Kirito always trained alone at night. Kirito didn't say much and walked away, thinking Klein still looked exactly the same as before. When Kirito returned to town, he found a message from Keita saying Sachi had disappeared from her room. Kirito immediately activated his night vision skill and followed the fresh footprints, leading into an old sewer tunnel. There, he found Sachi trembling in the dark. She admitted she wanted to escape from the monsters, from the guild, and from the entire world of SAO. After speaking a little more, Kirito realized she wasn't actually planning to end her life, she was just terrified of everything. He promised her quietly that he would protect her from now on, easing her fears. That night, Sachi visited his room, saying she couldn't sleep alone. She asked if she could stay because the nightmares wouldn't stop. Kirito let her rest, and as she finally fell asleep beside him, he whispered that she would survive and that he'd guard her no matter what. A few days later, Keita teleported to the town of Beginnings to buy a house for their guild. While he was gone, the rest of the group decided it was a perfect chance to gather some good loot. Kirito warned them it was risky, but they didn't listen. They wanted treasure and believed they were strong enough. On the 20th floor, they discovered a strange hallway with a secret door. Kirito didn't remember this being in the beta test. Inside, they found a treasure chest. The others excitedly ran to it thinking they hit the jackpot. But Kirito sensed something was wrong. The moment they opened it, a loud alarm echoed, and giant metal doors slammed shut behind them. Monsters poured in, imps and stone giants. The guild members panicked and tried using teleport crystals, but Kirito noticed too late that the chamber blocked all crystal use. The monsters attacked. One member tripped, and the imps swarmed him, deleting him instantly. Another was sliced down seconds later. Tetsuo tried stabbing a stone giant, but the monster didn't even flinch before cutting him down. Filled with rage, Kirito cut through every monster he could reach. He sprinted towards Sachi, but before he got to her, an imp struck her from behind. Sachi looked at Kirito, smiled softly, said something he couldn't hear and vanished into pixels. Christmas Eve arrived. While the entire world celebrated, Kirito felt nothing but grief. His mind stayed stuck on Sachi and how he failed her. Then a scout told him about a secret boss that dropped a revival item, a rare object that could bring a player back to life. Kirito didn't hesitate. He set out alone to find it. As he prepared his swords, he realized he'd probably die fighting this boss solo. Maybe no one would ever see his body or even remember his name. The guilt of hiding his level, the thought that the guild might have lived if he had been honest, all of it crushed him. He decided he didn't care if he died as long as he could bring Sachi back. Kirito sprinted through the snowy forest until he sensed someone following him. Klein and his guild appeared, saying they knew he was hunting the revival item, and warning it was too dangerous. Kirito said he had to do it alone. Before they could argue, a group of bandits known as the Divine Dragons confronted them, wanting the item for themselves. Klein told Kirito to go ahead and find the boss while his team held off the bandits. Kirito ran until he reached a giant frozen tree. At midnight, the bell rang, and the Christmas boss Nicholas the Renegade descended from the sky. Kirito charged forward, ready to die if he had to. By the time he returned, Klein and his squad had defeated the Divine Dragons. Kirito tossed Klein the revival item. Klein checked it and realized it could only revive someone within 10 seconds of their death, meaning Sachi couldn't be brought back. Kirito told Klein to use it on someone else in the future. When Kirito tried to leave, Klein stopped him, begging him to stay alive no matter what. That night, a new notification appeared in Kirito's menu. It was a gift from Sachi. He opened it and found a voice message. Sachi's soft voice filled the room. She said that if he was hearing the message, she was already gone. She didn't want him to blame himself anymore. She remembered how he promised she would live, and she recorded the message, hoping it would comfort him if she didn't survive. She admitted she always knew Kirito was stronger than he pretended to be, even if she didn't understand why he hid it. Before the message ended, she told him to live his life, explore this world, and sing something for Christmas for both of them. On March 6, 2024, the strongest players in Sword Art Online were gathered for a big strategy meeting on the 56th floor. Everyone was talking seriously about how to handle the next boss. In the middle of all this, Asuna suddenly suggested a crazy plan. She said they should drag the field boss into a nearby village and fight it inside the town. Kirito immediately disagreed, saying the NPC villagers would all get wiped out if that happened. But Asuna coldly replied that NPCs didn't matter at all, and that Kirito should just listen and follow her decisions. Her tone made it very clear she wasn't joking. A month later, in April, Kirito was taking a nap under a tree instead of grinding floors like the other players. Asuna appeared under the same tree and asked why he was sleeping during such an important time. Kirito told her that the weather in Aincrad was perfect, and this season felt peaceful. Asuna snapped back, saying every day wasted in SAO was a day lost in the real world. Kirito calmly told her that this floating castle was their life now and she needed to enjoy the small things. He told her to lie down beside him and look at the sky to understand. She did, and without realizing it, she fell asleep too. Hours later, Kirito woke up and found Asuna sleeping next to him. A bunch of random players walked past and started yelling jokes, telling them to get a room already. Kirito rolled his eyes and stayed beside her until she woke up. When he jokingly called her ugly when she sleeps, she almost attacked him on the spot, then said she'd treat him to a meal to settle things. Inside a small restaurant, Asuna thanked him for looking out for her. She explained that even in safe zones, players could still be tricked into dying. Some killers would move a sleeping player's hand over their menu to accept a duel without them knowing. The victim would never wake up before dying. Right then, a loud scream echoed outside. Kirito and Asuna sprinted out and saw a man hanging from a rope with a spear stuck in his chest. His body broke apart into particles instantly. Kirito wondered how someone was killed in a safe zone without anyone seeing a dual notification. Inside a nearby tower, Asuna worried that someone had figured out a way to murder players inside towns, which was supposed to be impossible. She asked Kirito to help her investigate before the game got even more dangerous. Outside, Kirito began asking if anyone saw anything. A girl walked forward and introduced herself as Yoko. She explained that the dead player's name was Kane, and they both entered the town together. After they got separated, she found him hanging from the tower, right before his soul left to Nirvana. Kirito and Asuna took Yoko to Agil's shop to examine the spear. Using his appraisal skill, Agil discovered the weapon was made by a player blacksmith. The name on the weapon was Grimlock. When Asuna asked who that was, Yoko said they all used to be part of the same guild some months ago. She began telling the whole story. 6 months earlier, their guild found a rare ring dropped by a powerful monster. They couldn't decide whether to sell it or keep it. Most members voted to sell it. But before their leader, Rhysalia, could make the sale, she was killed. Kirito immediately thought someone from the guild might have murdered her. Yoko then explained that Grimlock was Rhysalia's husband in SAO, and he might be hunting down every member who voted to sell the ring. Yoko was one of the members who voted to keep it. Kane was another. The third member was a man named Schmidt, who now fought on the front lines. So Kirito and Asuna took Yoko to warn Schmidt. When they told him what they learned, Schmidt froze in fear. Yoko suddenly shouted that they were all guilty for voting and that she wished the entire guild would pay for what happened. Before anyone could react, a dagger flew into her back. Yoko fell to the ground and vanished. Kirito quickly spotted a cloaked figure on a roof and chased after him. The man pulled out a teleport crystal. As the town bell chimed, the cloaked man teleported away before Kirito could hear the spell. When Kirito returned, Schmidt insisted that the cloaked figure looked like Rhysalia and claimed she had come back from the dead to get revenge. Later that night, Asuna sat outside with Kirito and admitted she was scared. She said maybe it really was Rhysalia's ghost. Kirito shook his head and explained that ghosts don't need teleport crystals. Asuna handed Kirito food she cooked earlier, but said the durability was almost gone. Kirito took a bite and said it tasted good, but the sandwich immediately broke apart. At that moment, Kirito realized how the fake deaths were done. He told Asuna to meet him at the graveyard later. Meanwhile, Schmidt went alone to the Hill of the Cross, the place marked as Rhysalia's grave. There, a ghost-like figure appeared and forced him to confess. Scared out of his mind, Schmidt admitted he was manipulated by an anonymous letter telling him to write down Rhysalia's location after the vote. He thought it was harmless, but never expected her to die. Suddenly, Yoko appeared alive and well, revealing her face. She told him they had recorded his confession. Kane also stepped out, proving he was alive too. Schmidt finally realized he had been tricked the whole time. Back in town, Kirito explained to Asuna how it all worked. Yoko and Kane had never died at all. Kane had purposely hit Kirito's armor earlier, making Kirito realize that their armor durability was almost gone. When their armor broke completely, they pretended to die. Kane had teleported away the second his armor shattered. Yoko stabbed herself earlier, then turned her back away so no one would see her armor break right when she collapsed. Kirito then revealed that the cloaked man was not Grimlock after all. It was actually Kane disguised as him. They faked their deaths just to expose the real murderer. When Asuna checked their friend list, she saw Yoko standing alive on the 19th floor, confirming everything. At the same time, Yoko and Kane were celebrating quietly. They finally believed they had enough proof to expose Schmidt and lock him up forever. But Schmidt kept trying to defend himself, saying everything that happened to Rhysalia was just a mistake. Right as he tried explaining, a knife suddenly hit his shoulder. He instantly realized it was a paralysis blade because his whole arm went stiff. 3 men stepped out of the shadows. Their name tags glowed orange, meaning they were orange players, criminals. Schmidt recognized them immediately. They were members of Laughing Coffin, a terrifying player-killing guild known for murdering people just for fun. Before Schmidt could even breathe, the leader swung a cleaver toward him to finish the job. But suddenly, a horse burst through the mist. Kirito rode in like a knight and yelled that dozens of frontliners were on the way. He jumped off, drew his sword, and faced the killers. The Laughing Coffin leader paused, then snapped his fingers, signaling his men to put their weapons away. Without saying another word, they turned around and walked straight into the fog until they disappeared. Once the danger was gone, Schmidt sat down in shock, confused how Kirito even found them. Kirito explained. He figured everything out earlier after realizing both Yoko and Kane's weapons were made by Grimlock. Grimlock should have been the peaceful one, but Kirito understood he had been letting the plan unfold, so he could hide his real motive. Kirito said that earlier, he was drinking tea with Asuna, and she mentioned that marriage and SAO was the strongest bond between two people because they could share inventory instantly. After hearing that, Kirito realized something important. If Rhysalia died, Grimlock would automatically receive all her items, including the rare ring. That meant Grimlock had a reason to kill her. When Schmidt heard this, he realized Grimlock must have been the one who sent him the anonymous letter. Kirito added that Grimlock might have hired the Laughing Coffin members to finish everyone off before the truth came out. At that moment, Asuna arrived, dragging Grimlock with her. Yoko stepped forward and asked why he murdered his own wife. Grimlock's face twisted as he answered. He said that Raicelia in the real world was shy and gentle, but inside Seo, she became confident and brave. He said, seeing her change made him feel weak, useless, and scared that she would leave him. Instead of accepting she had grown stronger, he wanted to keep the old version of her, the one he felt he could control. So he chose to kill her here and hold on to the version he wanted. Hearing this disgusting confession, Asuna said Grimlock was a pathetic man who never loved Raicelia. He didn't want a partner, he wanted to own her. Kane stepped forward and said they would decide Grimlock's punishment. Yoko and Kane dragged him away as the sky began to brighten. As the sun rose, Asuna looked at Kirito and asked him what he would do if someone he cared about turned out to be different from what he imagined. Kirito said he'd consider himself lucky, because learning new sides of a person would only make him love them more. Asuna's expression softened. She liked his answer and she turned to leave. Before walking away, the ghostly image of Raicelia briefly appeared behind them, watching silently. Asuna stopped and asked Kirito to add her as a friend. She joked that his lonely self desperately needed friends because nobody would willingly hang out with him. Then she told him to come get food with her. A new day, June 24th, 2024. A girl was polishing Asuna's sword. After finishing, she asked why Asuna wasn't on the front lines today. Asuna said she had an important meeting. The blacksmith smirked and realized Asuna was going on a date with someone she clearly liked. When the bell rang, Asuna rushed out, and the blacksmith sighed, saying she wished she had someone like that too. The next day, Kirito entered the blacksmith's shop, Rika's shop, and asked if she made custom weapons. Rika looked him up and down and joked that he didn't look like someone who could afford anything special. Kirito then revealed his sword. When she saw the jet black blade, she froze, realizing it was the Elucidator, one of the rarest weapons in the entire game. She wondered why his sword was so huge and powerful. When Kirito asked if she could craft another one like it, Rika proudly showed him her best sword, calling it her ultimate masterpiece. Kirito decided to test it by lightly tapping it against the Elucidator. Her sword shattered instantly. Rika watched in horror as the pieces faded away. Shocked, she asked why his sword was so strong. Kirito simply said her weapon wasn't durable enough. Rika then explained she could make a stronger weapon if she had the right material. She said that in the Western Mountains, a dragon produced a rare metal that blacksmiths used to create top-tier weapons. Kirito didn't want to bring her because it was dangerous, but she insisted that a master blacksmith needed to be present. So, he had no choice but to take her. When they reached the cold mountains, Rika kept shaking from the freezing wind. Kirito took off his coat and wrapped it around her. She sniffed it and said it smelled like 2 weeks of sweaty biscuit crumbs. As they searched, she spotted glowing crystals and thought they were beautiful. She tried running toward them, but Kirito stopped her and warned her not to move until he dealt with the dragon. Kirito stepped forward and saw the dragon waking up. He yelled at Rika to hide behind the crystals. When she tried saying she'd be fine, he snapped at her to listen. She finally obeyed, and he called her a good girl before walking away. The dragon roared awake and blasted icy breath at Kirito. He blocked it with his blade, shocking Rika with how strong he was. Kirito fought back, attacking the dragon and slicing off one of its limbs. But as Rika screamed for him to finish it off, the dragon spun and sent a freezing gust toward her, blowing her into a giant hole in the ground. She fell, but Kirito jumped and grabbed her hand. They both dropped deeper into the pit. When they woke up, Rika realized Kirito had cushioned her fall with his own body. He handed her a revival potion to restore her health. She thanked him and wondered how they would get out. Rika tried using a teleport crystal, but nothing happened. Kirito guessed the cave blocked teleportation. Kirito tried climbing by running straight up the icy wall, launching himself over 100 meters high. But he slipped on ice, crashed down, and said he just needed a longer running start. Rika told him he needed a better face too. That night, they slept near each other in the cold cave. Rika said it felt strange lying next to someone she barely knew in a place she'd never seen before. She asked why he risked his life to save her. Kirito said he would rather die than let someone else die, especially someone like her. She then asked if she could hold his hand, because she wanted warmth, and wondered if anything here was even real or just data. The next morning, Kirito found a crystal inside the snow. Rika checked it using appraisal and shouted it was the crystallite they came for. She asked why it was buried in snow. Kirito explained it was actually the dragon's lair, and the crystallite was basically something the dragon left behind, dragon droppings. Just then, the dragon flew into the pit again. Kirito lifted Rika onto his shoulder and ran up the walls. With a flip, he landed on the dragon's back. The dragon shot upward, blasting through the hole and carrying both of them into the sky. They flew far above the mountains, rising into the clouds. Rika grabbed Kirito's hand and shouted something, but the rushing wind was so loud he couldn't hear a single word she said. Later that day, when Kirito and Rika returned to her shop, she immediately started working on the ore they found. She hammered it again and again, putting all her emotions into every strike. While working, she kept thinking about everything that happened in the mountains, and her feelings for Kirito grew stronger. She even thought about telling him how much she liked him once the sword was done. After one final hit, the shining ore glowed and transformed into a brand new weapon, a beautiful teal-colored blade. She named it Dark Repulsor, her biggest achievement. Kirito lifted it and swung it through the air. The blade sliced smoothly, and he smiled, saying it felt amazing. Rika's entire face lit up because his words meant everything to her. Feeling bold for a moment, Rika asked if she could be his personal blacksmith from now on. She said she wanted to take care of his swords forever, trying to reach for his hand. Right when she was about to grab it, the shop door slammed open and Asuna ran inside. She hugged Rika tightly, worried sick because she had been missing. Rika told her they got trapped in a huge pit with a dragon. Asuna noticed Kirito behind her and asked how they knew each other. Kirito explained he and Asuna were frontliners. Asuna added she had mentioned Rika's shop to him before. Rika froze. That meant this was the guy Asuna talked about all the time. The realization crushed Rika inside. Asuna asked if Kirito did anything weird. Rika tried to stay calm and said the only thing he did was break her best sword on the first day. Then she teased Asuna, saying Kirito had a huge black sword she should check out, before running out of the shop in embarrassment. As the sun set, Rika cried alone beneath a bridge. Kirito eventually found her. She asked why he came, saying he shouldn't have bothered. Kirito pointed at the big tower in town and said he searched everywhere for her. Rika apologized for acting strange earlier and asked him to forget everything she said. But Kirito told her something unexpected. He wanted to thank her. He said she was the first person who made him realize he actually wanted to live. Their fall into the pit, fighting the dragon, everything they went through together, made him understand he cared about surviving. Hearing that, Rika admitted she was also searching for something real in this fake world of data. For her, the moment she held his hand was the first time she felt warmth that wasn't from the game's code. Even though she was still hurt, she said she would eventually feel normal again. Before leaving, she begged him to finish this death game and visit her whenever he needed his sword fixed because she had the best hands in town. On October 17, 2024, Kirito was fighting a mini-boss. He dodged its lightning dash and slashed it clean through the middle. After a few hits, the monster shattered into blue shards. It had been 2 full years since the game trapped everyone inside. Kirito wondered if the creator was watching him, but he headed back home. Later, while walking through the forest, he spotted one of the rarest animals in the entire game, a super rare rabbit. He quickly fired a throwing needle at it. The rabbit ran straight into his trap, and Kirito caught it before it disappeared. Back on floor 50, he showed Agile the rare drop. Agile freaked out, saying it was an S-class ingredient and only top chefs could cook it. Kirito admitted he wasn't good at cooking. Right then, Asuna appeared, and Kirito realized he knew the perfect chef. But Asuna's bodyguard glared at him like he wanted to fight. Kirito asked Asuna about her cooking level. She said she maxed it out. Kirito showed her the rare rabbit and joked that she could taste his meat if she cooked it well. Asuna nearly smacked him for that and demanded half of it. Kirito agreed, so they left the shop together. Agile begged for a bite, but Kirito only promised him a picture. Asuna asked where she should cook the rabbit. Kirito hesitated awkwardly, so she invited him to her home. She dismissed her bodyguard, Kuradil, who got offended. She trusted Kirito more. He tried grabbing her hand, saying she needed protection, but she ordered him to stand down. His anger shot up the moment Kirito walked away with her. When they reached the 61st floor, Kirito was shocked at how clean and fancy her area smelled compared to Agile's dusty shop. Inside Asuna's house, he realized she was way richer than him. Asuna began cutting the rabbit meat and prepared a stew. As the pot baked, she made side dishes. Kirito sat there, experiencing a strange feeling he hadn't felt in a long time. Warmth, comfort, normal life. When she took the pot out, Kirito could hardly believe something he hunted smelled that good. After eating, Asuna said their lives had become strange. She felt like she had been living in this floating castle forever. Kirito admitted he barely remembered the real world anymore because so many people had stopped trying to escape. Asuna said she still wanted to return, and Kirito agreed. She then paused, looked at his face, and joked that he looked like every guy right before confessing. She laughed, making him blush. She teased him for never having a girlfriend, and he admitted that's why he always stayed solo. Asuna warned him that fighting alone was too risky now, especially after the 70th floor, because monsters had unpredictable patterns. Kirito said parties slowed him down. She immediately sliced the air with her knife, showing insane speed, shocking him. She asked him to join her party, saying she was tired of her bodyguard who smelled like a skunk. She sent him a party invite. Kirito tried rejecting, saying front lines were too dangerous, but Asuna flashed her knife again, so he accepted out of fear, making her extremely happy. Outside her home, she smiled at the sky, wondering if this peaceful moment was what the creator wanted the world to feel like. The next day, when Kirito was still half asleep, Asuna suddenly fell on top of him through a teleport portal. Kirito opened his eyes and realized his hands accidentally landed somewhere they shouldn't. Asuna slapped him so hard he rolled across the ground. Before he could explain, Kuradiel appeared through the gate. Asuna hid behind Kirito, terrified because Kuradiel had been creeping around since early morning. He claimed it was for her protection. He grabbed her arm and tried taking her away, but Kirito stepped in and said she was booked for the day. Kuradiel got furious and challenged Kirito. He wanted to prove that a useless beater couldn't protect her. The duel countdown began. With a single slash, Kirito shattered Kuradiel's blade instantly, winning the fight. Asuna was shocked by how fast it ended. Kuradiel tried attacking again like a coward, but Asuna blocked him effortlessly and fired him on the spot, ordering him back to headquarters. He left, boiling with rage, and in the corner of the crowd, a laughing coffin killer quietly slipped away unnoticed. Inside the giant maze on the 74th floor, Asuna was already fighting a skeleton knight by herself. She moved so fast that the monster couldn't even touch her. She dodged each attack like it was slow motion, and Kirito finally understood why people called her Lightning Flash. Asuna jumped forward, poking the skeleton again and again before slicing its legs to weaken it. After her quick combo, she yelled, "Switch!" Kirito rushed in and used his quadruple barrage, hitting the skeleton over and over. The enemy tried delivering one last attack, but Kirito spun away and finished it, with a circular slash that turned it into blue particles. A while later, they finally reached a huge pair of doors that looked like the entrance to a boss room. Asuna wanted to peek inside. Kirito told her to hold her teleport crystal tight in case something went wrong. They pushed the doors together and slowly walked in. As the torches lit up with blue flames, a giant bull-like demon stepped out. Its size alone made both of them jump back. Once they escaped, Asuna admitted the boss was way too strong for just the two of them. They needed several tanks to absorb damage. Kirito said they'd need at least 10 shield users. Asuna suddenly noticed something odd. Kirito never used the shield even though his sword style allowed it. She also noticed he didn't use the sword Rika made for him. Before she could question him more, she remembered she brought lunch. The thought of Asuna's cooking instantly distracted Kirito. Just then, another guild walked in. It was Klein and his group of loud weirdos. Klein ran to Kirito, asking why he was hanging out with such a pretty girl. Asuna proudly announced she and Kirito were in the same party now. Klein pretended to be heartbroken, saying Kirito broke the bro code for a girl. Before the teasing ended, a second guild arrived, the Aincrad Liberation Force. They were huge, armored players who used to watch over the first floor. Kirito could tell they had no idea how dangerous the boss was, so he suggested following them. A few minutes later, they heard a scream from the boss room. Kirito and Asuna sprinted toward the sound. When they reached the chamber, the boss Gleam Eyes was already smashing through the knights. The players' HP bars were almost empty. Gleam Eyes roared, draining their health even more, then slammed them into the floor. One knight was thrown into the entrance and died on the spot as his armor broke apart. Asuna's eyes widened when she saw another knight about to be killed. She couldn't stand still. She ran straight at the boss. Kirito followed her immediately, and Klein realized this might be his last day alive. Asuna used her linear skill, but the demon hit her with a punch so strong she flew back. Her HP dropped dangerously low. Kirito slid in front of her and blocked the boss's massive sword, yelling at her to retreat. Meanwhile, Klein and his team dragged the remaining knights away from danger. Kirito stopped the demon's fire breath attack, but his HP was dropping fast. He knew he couldn't keep this up alone. No single player could defeat a floor boss. Then he looked at Asuna, Klein, the injured players, and remembered Sachi's final moments. He couldn't let another person die in front of him ever again. He shouted to Asuna and Klein to distract the boss for just 10 seconds. That was all he needed. As they stalled the demon, Kirito opened his menu quickly. Asuna jumped away from a deadly hit. Klein barely survived another strike, and Gleam Eyes charged toward Kirito. Kirito blocked the attack head-on and summoned a second sword. His eyes sharpened. His speed changed. He activated Starburst Stream. Kirito became a blur, slicing the boss non-stop hit after hit after hit. Dozens of fast slashes landed before Gleam Eyes could react. His final strike tore through the monster's core, and the boss exploded into shards. The victory window popped up. Kirito collapsed, barely alive with only a tiny bit of HP left. For a moment, he heard Sachi calling him, but when his vision cleared, he saw Asuna hugging him tightly, crying because he survived. Klein thanked Kirito for saving everyone and left with his group. Once they were alone, Asuna admitted she had been terrified. She said she didn't know what she would do if Kirito died and decided to take a break from her guild duties. Later, Kirito met Agile, who showed him an article about a player beating a boss with a 50-hit combo. Everyone knew it was Kirito. Rika was the only one who knew about his secret two-sword ability, but before Kirito could say anything, Asuna ran in, panicked. The leader of the Knights of the Blood Oath wanted to see Kirito. He said Kirito couldn't take Asuna away from their guild because she was their most important member. Kirito joked that maybe they should have chosen a better bodyguard than Kiradil to protect her. Heathcliff apologized for Kiradil's behavior but made it clear Asuna couldn't leave them so easily. He challenged Kirito to a duel. If Kirito won, Asuna could do what she wanted. If Kirito lost, he would join the guild. Kirito agreed. The duel took place on the 75th floor. Asuna asked why he accepted, explaining that Heathcliff had a unique skill called Holy Sword, perfect offense and defense in one style. No one had ever seen his HP drop into yellow. She believed he was almost unbeatable. Kirito promised she didn't need to worry. Inside the arena, Heathcliff said the duel would be like Kirito's entrance exam. Kirito accepted, and the fight began. Kirito rushed first, attacking fast, but Heathcliff blocked everything with ease. Kirito sensed danger and jumped back. Heathcliff rammed into him with his shield. Before Kirito could breathe, Heathcliff struck again. Kirito aimed for his shield, but Heathcliff parried it perfectly and even complimented Kirito's reaction speed. The crowd cheered as they kept clashing. Kirito dodged strike after strike but couldn't land a clean hit. He pushed himself faster, but Heathcliff's defense was like a wall. Finally, Kirito managed to scratch Heathcliff's face, the first time anyone had ever damaged him. Kirito activated Starburst Stream, but Heathcliff dodged and countered with perfect timing. The duel ended. Heathcliff won. The crowd cheered loudly. Kirito stared at the ground, shocked. He couldn't understand how Heathcliff moved that fast, and he couldn't believe he lost. The next morning, Kirito looked at his new uniform and joked to Asuna that he didn't remember signing up to wear a clown outfit. That's when it hit him he was officially part of a guild now. Asuna apologized immediately, thinking it was her fault he had to join. Then she asked why he always stayed away from guilds and avoided people in general. Kirito finally opened up. He told her that a year earlier, he had joined a small guild called Moonlight Black Cats. At the time, he hid his true level because he was scared they would think he was too strong and push him away. He said they treated him like family, which made the lie even heavier. But one day, the guild members got trapped in a dungeon. Kirito tried helping them, but one by one, every single member died in front of him. He couldn't save them. As Kirito remembered the moment, he broke down, crying and blaming himself for everything. Asuna hugged him and promised that she wasn't going to die. She told him she was staying right beside him, no matter what. The following day, one of the knights named Godfrey told Kirito he would be taking him on an evaluation test. Kirito met him at the western gate, only to see Kiradil also waiting there. Godfrey said he wanted them to settle their issues. Kiradil stepped forward and pretended to apologize for challenging Kirito earlier, but Kirito sensed something off. Before he could say anything, Godfrey ordered both of them to hand over every crystal they had, including teleport crystals, claiming this test would challenge their willpower. After giving up their items, the three of them walked deep into the labyrinth. When they finally stopped for a break, Godfrey passed around food and water. Kirito looked at the meal and wished he was eating Asuna's cooking instead. Godfrey drank his water, but Kirito noticed Kiradil didn't drink any. The second Kirito tasted his, he spit it out. It was poisoned. Godfrey collapsed to the ground as paralysis took over. Kirito realized what happened. Kiradil started laughing. Godfrey tried to use a cure crystal, but Kiradil kicked it away and called him useless. Kiradil admitted he poisoned all their drinks. Then he began stabbing Godfrey again and again as he bragged about the fake story he planned to tell. He would claim their group was ambushed by Laughing Coffin, and that he heroically fought them off alone. Godfrey's HP dropped into red. Kiradil stabbed one more time, killing him instantly. Kiradil then turned to Kirito with excitement. He said Kirito should have joined Laughing Coffin because they were the ones who taught him paralysis tricks. He stabbed Kirito's arm, saying it was payback for humiliating him. He stabbed Kirito's leg, making him scream in pain. Kirito's HP was dropping fast. His body was frozen. His mind kept replaying Sachi's face. His gauge moved closer and closer to zero. But then he remembered the person he loved most. Something inside him snapped. His body broke free of the paralysis for a moment. Powered completely by will, Kirito refused to die. But Kiradil kept attacking. Right before the final blow, a flash of light hit Kiradil and threw him away. Asuna had arrived. She rushed to Kirito and used the healing crystal. She had been watching his location on the map and panicked when Godfrey's marker vanished. She was relieved. Kirito was still alive. Kiradil tried cracking a joke to escape the situation, but Asuna wasn't having it. She slashed his face and attacked him non-stop, not giving him a single second to talk. When Kiradil realized he was losing, he begged for his life. Asuna hesitated for a moment. That was exactly what he wanted. He shoved her away and raised his sword. until Kirito jumped in front of her and took the blow. With one clean strike, Kirito finished Kiradil for good. Asuna froze. She looked at Kirito, horrified that he had to kill someone because of her. She grabbed his hand and apologized repeatedly, saying everything was her fault, crying as she said she shouldn't bother him anymore. Kirito gently pulled her closer and told her that his life belonged to her now, and he wanted to spend it protecting her. He asked her to stay with him that night so neither of them would be alone. That night, they ate a simple dinner with no meat, and sat together in the quiet cabin. When Asuna stood up, she tried to make the moment more romantic. But Kirito panicked because he had no idea what she meant. She blinked, confused, and smacked him. After 2 minutes of black screen, Kirito is done. Asuna woke up and told Kirito she had a dream where they never met, and where their whole lives in this world never happened. She said she was relieved it was just a dream. Kirito asked if she still wanted to return to the real world. Asuna said yes, she wanted her real life back, but she didn't want to lose the time she spent with him either. Kirito felt the same. He told her about a small quiet village on the 22nd floor surrounded by trees and lakes. He said he wanted to move there with her. Asuna asked what would happen afterward. Kirito finally confessed he wanted to marry her someday. Her eyes sparkled with happiness. On October 25th, they bought the little log cabin they always dreamed of. They were totally broke now, but Kirito wondered if their love only existed in this virtual world. Asuna got angry at the idea, saying her feelings were absolutely real. She promised she wouldn't stop trying until they escaped the game together. She said that if they made it out, she would find him again in the real world and fall in love with him all over. Then she kissed him. Later that day, they walked through the forest together. Kirito carried Asuna on his shoulders, and they laughed like children playing in the woods. For the first time, they weren't living just to survive. They were living because they wanted to be together. As Asuna picked flowers, a chubby bald guy saw them from far away and waved. Kirito told Asuna to hold tight, then ran off deeper into the forest. Kirito told Asuna there were ghost rumors in this area, including a story about a woodworker who vanished after being captured by a forest spirit. Right when he finished, Asuna noticed someone hiding behind a tree. She screamed for Kirito to put her down. She used her enhanced vision and spotted a mysterious figure. Kirito prepared himself, but instead of attacking, the girl collapsed. When they reached her, they realized she had no player cursor. She was just a small unconscious girl all alone in SAO. They carried her back to their cabin. Kirito realized she wasn't an NPC because NPCs couldn't be moved like that. Asuna looked worried, wondering if the girl would ever wake up. All night, Asuna couldn't relax. She sat beside the little girl and whispered that if she had been alone inside this death game for so long, she hoped she would finally wake up tomorrow. The next morning, Asuna jolted awake when she saw the little girl sitting up in bed. She shouted Kirito's name so loudly that he nearly fell out of his chair. As soon as they calmed down, Asuna gently asked the girl what her name was. The girl blinked calmly and said, "My name is Yui." Asuna asked if she remembered where her parents were, but Yui shook her head. She couldn't remember anything, not her family, not her home, not anything before waking up. To make her feel better, Kirito introduced himself, but instead of saying Kirito, Yui kept calling him Kiddo. Kirito laughed and told her she could call him whatever made her comfortable. Yui pointed at him and confidently said, "Papa." Asuna froze for 1 second, then exploded with happiness. "Papa and Mama," Yui said, hugging Asuna tightly. Asuna picked her up and asked, "Yui, sweetie, are you hungry?" Later that day, Asuna cooked a meal for everyone. Yui looked at both plates and said she wanted whatever Papa was eating. Kirito laughed but let her try his spicy food, wondering if she would be able to handle it. To their surprise, Yui said, "This is yummy." Kirito immediately suggested they have a full spicy party feast next time. Asuna shot both of them a look. "No spicy party." "Not happening," she said. All three of them laughed together. That night, after Yui fell asleep, Asuna sat beside her and realized Yui acted like a small kid, scared, confused, and needing comfort. Asuna said she wanted to take care of her until she remembered everything. Kirito agreed, but he also said they should try finding Yui's real family in the town of beginnings. Asuna didn't want to hear it, she was already attached to her. Kirito held her hand and admitted he felt the same way. Yui made their cabin feel like a real home for the first time. As Yui slept, she whispered, "Papa, Mama," in her dreams. On Halloween, they went back to the very first floor of SAO for the first time in 2 whole years. Yui still didn't remember anything about this place. As they walked through the town, Kirito and Asuna noticed something strange. There were almost no players around. The streets were empty. Suddenly, a scream echoed from an alley. A desperate woman was yelling at a group of armored soldiers, begging for her children to be returned. These men were part of a group called the Alf Knights. Their leader demanded she pay unfair taxes, and even made disgusting comments about forcing her to pay in other ways. Before he could finish talking, Kirito and Asuna jumped down in front of them. Asuna told the kids, "It's okay now. "You're safe." The elf leader refused to let them leave and pulled out his sword. Asuna didn't even blink. She stepped forward and instantly jabbed him straight onto the ground. When he got up, she slammed him again. The other men realized they stood no chance and started running. While they ran, Yui suddenly felt something wrong inside her. She reached her hand out, then collapsed. Asuna caught her and held her close as Yui whispered, "Mama, I'm scared," before fainting. Later that day, they followed the woman back to her home, which turned out to be an orphanage. Asuna asked if she had seen Yui before, but the woman said she'd never seen her, meaning Yui wasn't from the town of beginnings. Then another woman arrived. Her name was Yulir. Inside the home, Yulir explained everything. Their guild leader, Thinker, had been tricked by Kibou. Kibou took control of part of the Elf Knights. He began bullying and taxing weaker players, and Thinker was trapped deep inside a high-level dungeon. She begged Kirito and Asuna to help find him before he starved to death. Kirito and Asuna hesitated, thinking this might be a trap. But Yui suddenly spoke up, her voice glitching, and said Yulir was telling the truth. Kirito and Asuna exchanged a look. If Yui could sense lies, then this was real. They agreed to help, but Yui insisted on going with them too. A few minutes later, they entered a dungeon Kirito had never seen in the beta. Yulir believed this area might have opened after higher floors were cleared. Soon, hundreds of giant toads attacked. Kirito charged forward, slicing them down one by one. Yulir noticed Thinker never moved from a spot on her map, which meant he must be hiding in a safe zone. Kirito activated night vision and saw a figure ahead. Yulir ran forward, thinking it was Thinker. But Thinker screamed, "Yulir, don't come closer." Kirito sprinted, pushing her out of the way as a massive scythe nearly cut her down. Standing before them was the Grim Reaper. Asuna yelled for Yulir to hide in the safe area. Kirito tried telling Asuna to teleport away, but the Grim Reaper knocked them both into a wall. Kirito lost half his HP instantly. His back felt crushed. The Grim Reaper raised its weapon again. As it swung, Yui jumped between them. Kirito screamed at her to run, but suddenly the game system displayed something impossible. Immortal object. Yui floated upward like a glowing spirit. She summoned a brilliant mythical sword, the strongest in the entire game. She swung it once, releasing a massive fire blast that burned the Grim Reaper into nothing. Once they escaped into the safe area, Yui called them Kirito and Asuna for the first time. She said her memories had returned. She explained everything. SAO was controlled by a system called Cardinal. It managed the entire world automatically. It also monitored players' mental health, emotions, and stress. Yui was a mental health AI program designed to help players. She was not a real player, but an artificial intelligence. She said she wasn't supposed to interact with players at all. But after watching people suffer every day for years, her system glitched. Her emotions grew too strong. She saw Kirito and Asuna, two people who still had hope and wanted to be close to them. She said she didn't deserve these feelings because she was just a program. Kirito kneeled beside her and said, "You're not just a program, what do you want?" Yui answered softly, "I want to stay with Papa and Mama." Kirito and Asuna hugged her tightly. But Yui knew it was too late. The room they were in was actually an emergency admin console. The reason such a deadly boss guarded it, because she used forbidden commands to protect Asuna and Kirito. The system detected her as an error, and was now trying to delete her. Yui thanked them for giving her happiness. She said players always smiled more whenever Papa and Mama were around. She asked them to keep helping others in her place. Asuna burst into tears, holding Yui and begging her not to disappear. Yui's body slowly turned transparent. She faded away in Asuna's arms. Asuna collapsed to the ground, crying uncontrollably. But Kirito refused to let this be the end. He accessed the console and hacked into the main system, trying to save even the smallest piece of her data. A bright light blasted him backward. Asuna rushed to him. Kirito opened his hand and showed her a small glowing crystal, a single teardrop-shaped object. He whispered, "I managed to save her core program. This is Yui's heart." Asuna held the crystal close to her chest, shaking as she cried. It was the only piece of their daughter left. On the way back home, Asuna kept thinking about Yui. She asked Kirito what would happen to Yui's data once they finally escaped the game. Kirito told her not to worry. He secretly saved Yui's entire program in his Nerve Gear's memory. He promised Asuna that one day, when they returned to the real world, he would rebuild Yui so they could meet her again. Asuna smiled softly, imagining the day they would get to hold their daughter for real. And even though they couldn't hear it, Yui silently wished her, "Mama, good luck." As days passed, Kirito felt restless. He missed fighting monsters, swinging swords, and running around like before. Just then, an old man wandered into their peaceful spot and introduced himself as Nishida. He said fishing was the only thing keeping him from losing his mind in this death game. Even though he claimed to be an expert fisherman, his rod suddenly caught a giant fish that nearly dragged him into the lake. Nishida also mentioned he used to work in the company that helped build SAO. The old man was sad that he couldn't enjoy fish properly since everything tasted plain without sauce. Kirito immediately realized they had the best cook in the entire world sitting right next to him. Asuna stepped up and made a delicious fish dish, shocking the old man beyond words. After the feast, Nishida was practically glowing with happiness. As they talked, Asuna exposed one embarrassing truth. Kirito had never caught a single fish in his life. Nishida explained the problem wasn't Kirito, it was the lake. That lake was home to the legendary king of fish. Nishida said he once got the giant fish to bite, but his old bones gave out before he could finish the job. Then he asked Kirito to help him catch it. That night, Kirito lay on his bed, asking himself why he kept attracting the strangest people in SAO. Asuna told him to stop complaining and just try his best. The next morning, Asuna dressed up like some weird disciple following Kirito, hoping to motivate him. A crowd of villagers gathered to watch. Kirito tossed the bait in the water, and everyone stared quietly at the lake. Suddenly, the rod twitched. Nishida calmly told him to wait, not rush. Then the king of fish finally took the bait, and Nishida handed the rod to Kirito. Kirito almost fell backward. This thing was insanely heavy. He pulled with everything he had, but before he could land it, the monster ripped the fishing line apart. The lake exploded like a geyser. The giant fish burst out of the water and charged straight at them. Kirito sprinted away at record speed, yelling for Asuna to save him like some helpless kid. Asuna, still in her same outfit she'd worn for 2 weeks straight, jumped in and one-shotted the monster with a single strike. Everyone in the village stared at her in awe. That was Lightning Flash Asuna, they whispered. Before Kirito could congratulate her, a message popped up from Heathcliff. The peaceful days were over. Asuna told him they should at least hear what Heathcliff wanted, but neither of them realized they were leaving their home for the final time. Before they left, Nishida came to see them off. He said this was the first time he had met frontliners and admitted he had completely given up on clearing the game long ago. He called himself pathetic. Asuna comforted him. She told him she once felt the same, like her days were being stolen from her inside SAO. But then she met a clueless guy sleeping under a tree who told her that Aincrad's weather was perfect, and he didn't want to waste it inside a dungeon. After spending time with that boy, she finally understood. Even inside a trapped world, there were moments worth living for. Nishida smiled and wished for their safe return. He waved as they teleported, never seeing them again. Inside the Knights of the Blood Oath headquarters, they learned terrible news. The scouting team had been completely wiped out. Heathcliff explained that once his men entered the boss room, the doors vanished. When the doors reappeared, every soldier was already dead. No clues. No bodies. No sign of the boss. Heathcliff said the game couldn't be taken lightly anymore, and he expected Kirito to fight beside them. Later, as they waited for the battle to begin, Kirito pulled Asuna aside. He asked her if she could stay behind from the boss raid. His voice shook. He was scared. Asuna didn't understand. He told her if something happened to him, he didn't want her to be there to see it. She told him that if he didn't come back, she'd drink peach juice alone, which made him panic even more. Kirito wanted to grab her hand, run away, and never look back. He wanted to live with her forever in the woods by the lake. Asuna felt the same, but then she told him something that crushed his heart. A few days after SAO started, every player was disconnected from their home internet. That was when their real bodies were moved into hospitals. Machines were breathing for them. Nurses were feeding them. Their physical bodies couldn't survive like that forever. Even if they hid forever inside SAO, their real bodies would eventually die. Kirito finally understood. They didn't just need to clear the game. They were racing against time. Asuna started crying. She told him she wanted to meet him in the real world. She wanted to hold him, love him, and marry him for real. Kirito promised her they would make it out together. A few hours later, they teleported to the plaza where all frontliners were gathering. They saw Klein and Agile waiting for them. Kirito already knew one thing for sure. Agile wasn't joining for heroism. He was here to get rich or die trying. Before they entered the final chamber, Heathcliff stood in front of everyone and repeated the battle plan like a teacher preparing their class for an exam. But Asuna noticed Kirito acting nervous. He wasn't fidgeting, but his face looked tight, like he was expecting something awful. She lightly touched his arm and told him she'd protect him no matter what. Kirito promised he would protect her too, even if he had to fight until his last breath. Heathcliff pushed the giant doors open, and everyone ran inside. But the moment the last person crossed the threshold, the giant doors slammed shut behind them and slowly faded away like they were never there. The entire room was empty and silent, and the atmosphere felt wrong, almost like the room itself was watching them. Asuna heard a strange cracking noise from above. When she looked up, her heart dropped. Something massive was crawling across the ceiling. The others followed her gaze and finally saw it. It was the Skull Reaper, a giant skeleton monster with huge scythes for arms. The thing looked like the final boss of hell itself. The monster dived down toward them like a meteor. Heathcliff instantly ordered everyone to spread out, but 2 players froze in fear. Before they could move, The Skull Reaper sliced both of them in one strike. The rest of the group realized they were seconds away from joining them if they didn't fight properly. The Skull Reaper rushed again. Heathcliff barely blocked its first attack as sparks flew everywhere. Behind him, the monster tore through more players like they were nothing. Agile shouted in fear, wondering how anyone could get close enough to land even one hit. Kirito jumped in to protect one of the knights, and finally realized just how insanely strong this thing was. They weren't just fighting a floor boss, they were fighting a nightmare made real. Heathcliff blocked another deadly strike, and Asuna darted in with lightning speed. Her blade cut across the monster, making it fall back a bit. The guild members gasped, realizing the monster was actually flinching. That meant they could beat it if they all attacked together. They charged in and slashed its bones from every direction. But the Skull Reaper swung its tail like a whip and instantly took out more players. Even with everyone attacking, the monster's HP barely dropped. Kirito started doubting if they could actually win. Even so, everyone went for round 2. Heathcliff tanked another attack. Klein stabbed the monster in the ribs, and Agile landed a heavy axe blow. Kirito and Asuna worked perfectly together, evading, blocking, striking. 2 more men tried stabbing its bones. One died instantly. Finally, Heathcliff saw it. The monster's HP was almost at 0. He yelled at everyone to attack with everything they had. The entire team rushed in, swinging non-stop. The Skull Reaper screeched one last time, before crumbling into dust as the system congratulated them. Everyone collapsed in exhaustion. 14 people were dead, and there were still 25 more floors left. Then Kirito noticed something strange. Heathcliff's HP bar was still completely green, not even a scratch. Kirito remembered how fast Heathcliff reacted before, faster than any human should. Something clicked in his mind, and a chilling thought formed. He slashed at Heathcliff. Heathcliff didn't take damage. A pop-up appeared above him. Immortal object. Everyone froze as Kirito said the name out loud. Kayaba Akihiko, the creator of the death game, the man who trapped all of them. He was Heathcliff all along. Heathcliff smirked and admitted it. He said he was always supposed to be the final boss on the 100th floor, waiting to fight the player with the dual-wielding skill. But the story changed once Kirito figured him out early. One of the vice commanders tried to attack him out of rage, but Heathcliff teleported instantly, leaving the guy face first on the floor. Then Heathcliff paralyzed everyone with a snap, freezing them like statues, everyone except Kirito. He offered Kirito a duel. If Kirito won, Heathcliff would turn off his immortality and SAO would end instantly. Every player would log out. Asuna begged Kirito not to accept, but Kirito couldn't walk away, not after everything he had seen and lost. He thanked Agile for always helping him. He apologized to Klein for abandoning him on day 1, and then he looked at Asuna. He told Heathcliff his last condition. If I lose, make sure Asuna can't end her own life. Heathcliff agreed and matched Kirito's HP bar. The duel began. Kirito charged in, swinging hard. Heathcliff blocked every strike with no effort. Kirito dodged each hit by inches, but he still couldn't break through the man's defense. Heathcliff knew every move Kirito would make because he was the one who created the dual-wielding style. Kirito kept searching for an opening. He slashed again and again until sweat blurred his vision. Heathcliff cut Kirito's cheek and knocked him back. Desperate, Kirito activated Starburst Stream, his strongest combo, but Heathcliff smiled, saying Kirito would run out of stamina before the combo finished. During the last strike, Kirito's sword shattered. Heathcliff went for the killing blow, but Asuna jumped between them. Her body was instantly destroyed into glowing particles. Kirito caught her fading form, unable to breathe. She disappeared in his arms, smiling softly before vanishing forever. Kirito broke. He didn't care about living anymore. Heathcliff stabbed him in the chest, finishing the duel. The game over screen appeared, and Kirito's body shattered into particles. For a moment, then something impossible happened. His particles reformed. He stood again. He had no health bar, no system, just will. He whispered, "I'm not done yet." He lunged forward and stabbed Heathcliff straight through the chest. Both of them exploded into blinding light and vanished, ending it. On November 7, 2024, at 2:55 p.m., Sword Art Online was cleared, and everyone got notified. Kirito woke up floating above Aincrad's remains. Everything below him was breaking apart like glass. He heard someone call his name. It was Asuna. She rushed toward him and hugged him as tightly as she could. They kissed, floating in the empty sky as their home collapsed. Kayaba appeared beside them and calmly watched the world crumble, saying it was beautiful. Kirito asked why he did all of this, why he killed 4,000 players. Kayaba said he didn't even remember the reason anymore. The only thing he knew was that he wanted to create a world that broke the rules of reality. But someone had broken the rules of his world. Kirito and Asuna. He congratulated them and then faded away forever. Aincrad fell. As the world collapsed, Asuna asked Kirito for his real name. Kirigaya Kazuto. He said, "I'm 16. She smiled and said, "Yuki Asuna." 17. Then her voice started fading. She apologized, saying she promised to meet him in the real world, love him and marry him in real, but she didn't know if she could anymore. Kirito cried and reached for her, but the world disappeared. And that's where this video ends. Watch the next one and take care.